The most hurtful incident for me this week was a slap on the face. A slap on the face of you, me, and every ordinary Indian citizen. The district collector of Surajpur, Chhattisgarh, slapping a young man in full public glare, dashing his mobile phone on the road and asking police, "Isse maro, beat him up." Are we some banana republic? Have we been transported back to British times when East India Company officials could beat up Indians? Or have we gone further back to the feudal times when a feudal lord could walk around with his thugs and beat people up? I'm doing this video because we raise our voices for George Floyd in the US or the Palestinians, but are muted when a fellow Indian is ill-treated right here at home. I won't replay that video because the young man has been humiliated and scarred enough, scarred for life. He will perhaps have nightmares of IAS officers walking around with thugs. What Ranbir Sharma, a 2012 batch IAS officer, has done is to humiliate the entire nation. That powerful whack on the left cheek of the young man, a message what powerful government officials can do to ordinary Indian citizens. What an irony that our constitution has a preamble that starts with "We the people of India." Ranbir Singh and his servile-looking policemen appear to have shred and scattered our constitution to the winds on that street in Surajpur. Why do India's government officials behave like that to citizens? The overriding reason seems to be job security. Ranbir Sharma got away with an apology and a transfer to the state secretariat. Fantastic. And even while apologizing, he said he did what he did because the young man had lied. How naive. Thank God Chhattisgarh has a sensible chief minister in Bhupesh Baghel who apologized to the young man and offered him a new phone. And thank God Chhattisgarh has a humane IAS association which condemned the incident and recommended that Ranbir Sharma be made to pay for the phone. No self-respecting organization will retain the types of Ranbir Sharma, but India's government service will. India has a terrible punishment for government servants who commit such atrocities. A transfer, like the one that Ranbir Sharma got, which will in no way affect his career prospects as he marches towards chief secretaryship of the state some 20 years later. The striking contrast in class between the Indian administrative service and prestigious Indian private sector companies is telling. Just one example would do. At the beginning of the pandemic, an Infosys employee had tweeted, "Let's join hands, go out and sneeze with open mouths in public. Spread the virus." What does a good company like Infosys do? A quick investigation and a quick termination of that employee. And Infosys tweeted to the public, "Infosys has a zero tolerance policy towards such acts and has accordingly terminated the services of the employee." Look at that. Zero tolerance in Infosys, 100% tolerance in IAS. Naturally, we expect to see more such acts by IAS officers around the country. Just a few weeks ago, the whole nation saw Shailesh Kumar Yadav, the district magistrate of West Tripura, raiding a marriage party and shoving the groom by his neck. And he also got that terrible punishment, transferred out of his post. He should feel lucky he's not in private service. And down south in Kollam, Kerala, at the beginning of the pandemic, an IAS officer, Anupam Mishra, jumped quarantine and went absconding. He was traced some 2,500 kilometers away in Sultanpur, Uttar Pradesh. And guess what he got? Brought back, he was reinstated Alappuzha sub-collector. Forget an Infosys or a Tata's. Even a Kirana shop owner will not go after an irresponsible absconding employee and reinstate him. But India's government service will. I asked a few very senior IAS officers who put in more than 30 years of service as to why this is happening in the IAS. And they point to reasons like work pressure or the fact that only a handful of IAS officers do these dirty tricks in about 5,000 officers around the country. Both points are difficult to defend. Work pressure, ask any private sector employee of the kind of pressures, or even a homemaker about the daily pressures to maintain a home. And because we keep arguing that only a few police officers are ruthless or only a few politicians are corrupt, we keep aggregating that number to a point that India Today reported in 2019 that in India's present parliament, nearly 50% of politicians have criminal records. And more recently, the Times of India reported that there have been 667 cases against police officers in Kerala in a 4.5 period from 2016 June to January this year. Great nations are not great just because of their military might or their space programs or their GDP size, but the way they treat ordinary citizens. Here are 3 examples from around the world. A coincidence that all 3 happen to be women and all 3 happen to be from Kerala, of how great nations treat ordinary people who do extraordinary things, even when they are not natives. And all these 3 happened during COVID time. A road in Rome has been named after Sister Teresa Vettet, a nun from Kerala, for her exemplary services for Italy during its peak COVID crisis. Sister Vettet hails from a little village called Nelliodi near Kottayur in the outskirts of Kannur, Kerala. When legendary educator Mariamma Varki passed away in the UAE recently, none less than Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of the UAE and ruler of Dubai, lauded her services to his nation. And more recently, when Soumya Santosh, a 31-year-old caregiver from Kerala, was killed in a Hamas attack in Israel, the Israel Consul General Jonathan Zadka traveled to her village in Kiritode, Idiki district, Kerala, for her funeral. And later, none less than Israel President Reuven Rivlin had a 20-minute telephonic conversation with her husband Santosh, assuring his family of all support that Israel can give. Great nations derive their greatness from equality of law for all citizens, which is the bedrock of democracy. Like Norway's President Erna Solberg, who was fined recently 20,000 Norwegian crowns, or about $2,500, for having 13 relatives at her 60th birthday party at a time when the government had limited social gatherings to 10 people. She had 3 extra guests. Police Chief Ule Savayud said, "It is correct to issue a fine in order to uphold the general public's trust in the rules on social restrictions." Of course, no Indian citizen in her wildest imagination would be able to visualize a police officer ticketing our Prime Minister for addressing massive crowds in Bengal, or a Kerala Chief Minister for organizing a grand swearing-in with 500 people in attendance. Ranbir Sharma is still very young and he has enough time for course correction. While he's doing that, he can reflect on American journalist Hunter Thompson's words and also appreciate the fact that IAS is not the Indian Assault Service. We cannot expect people to have respect for law and order until we teach respect to those we have entrusted to enforce those laws. For now, the only consolation I can think of is that Ranbir Sharma could crack the civil service examination but isn't blessed with the arms of India's double Olympic medal winner Sushil Kumar. This video is dedicated to India's great son, Chipko movement leader and environmentalist Sundarlal Bahuguna, who passed away on May 21. He loved people and he respected even trees, all flora and fauna. May our nation imbibe those values and have mutual respect. Thank you.